Hi all, Steve here. In today's Moodle Monday video, I'm going to look at a topic I get asked about a lot, and that's activity and course completion tracking. I'm going to go into what activity and course completion are and why you might use them. If you're already confident about those things, there are chapter points in the video description, so you can skip ahead. Links to all the resources I talk about are in the video description, including a link to my example course. Well, what are activity and course completion? Activity completion tracking is used to track specific tasks or activities within a course. For example, if a course has books, quizzes, discussion forums, each of these activities can be tracked individually. Once a student completes an activity, Moodle will mark it as complete. This allows the student to keep track of their progress and see what activities they still need to complete. The tutor can also view a list of all activities their students have completed in a single screen. Course completion tracking, on the other hand, tracks the overall progress of a student within the online course. Tutors can set criteria for students to complete the course, possibly finishing all the formative activities or submitting and passing all the assignments. What activities you track is up to you. If you have a motivated group of students completing a directed learning course, you may only need to track course milestones such as discussion activities, quizzes or assessment submissions. If you have a group who require more support or motivation, you may increase the number of activities you track, maybe add in tracking links to external web resources to give you an early indication that you may need to step in and help. You can also reveal remedial resources to students who score lower than a set amount in a quiz. Of course, the student could simply click through all the activities without truly engaging, but that's always going to be an issue in online courses. You can add activity and course completion tracking to an existing course, or build them into a new course as you create it. To accompany this video, I've created a course in Moodle which demonstrates many of the capabilities of activity completion from the perspective of a student. There'll be a link to the course in the video description. For the best experience, staff should use a student account when accessing the course. If you need help with this, please let us know. In the new Moodle version 4, I've built a small, oversimplified tourism course with the assistance of ChatGPT. Here we can experiment with activity and course completion. There's one lecturer and several students. As you can see, there's a welcome forum and 5 topics, each of which contain at least one book resource and some kind of activity. The first thing we should do is check that the course has completion tracking enabled, otherwise we won't be able to go any further. This is in the course settings screen. Click the settings tab in your course. Down in the completion tracking section, check that enable completion tracking is set to yes. In the new Moodle 4, you're now able to show the completion conditions in the course itself. Leave that set to yes to give students more information, or switch it off if you don't want students to be distracted by this. Remember to save your settings. Next, we'll add a block to the Moodle course which will allow students to easily see their progress, called course completion status. You need to switch on editing first if you aren't in edit mode already. Click the Add a Block button and then choose Course Completion Status from the list. The block will appear in the course. Note that the block will not appear to students until you choose some course completion criteria. You can remove the latest announcements block if you don't plan to use the announcements forum. This forum is included with every course. I've chosen to hide mine since you can't delete it, and create my own simple welcome forum. I'll cover forums in more detail in a later video. Now we've removed the latest announcements block, added the course completion block, we can switch off edit mode again. The next task is to decide which activities you wish to track completion of, and which of those activities will contribute towards completing the whole course. You may be tempted at this stage to add activity tracking and course completion to everything in the course, but that may not be the best approach. For instance, we want to know if a student has contributed to the welcome forum, so we know they're engaging in the course. However, we probably don't want that to be part of the course completion criteria. Some students may feel unable to contribute to that forum for one reason or another. Meanwhile, they're submitting and passing all of their assessments on time. Notice in each topic there's a book resource. Again, we would be interested to know if a student has accessed these books. Despite this, we wouldn't normally include reading an online book in the requirements for completing the course. Instead, activity completion should be enough. It's up to you to decide what you want to track with activity completion and what the course completion criteria ultimately are. In this course, I've chosen to include all of the activities, which obviously includes the final assessment and the course completion criteria, but I'm satisfied to use only activity tracking on most of the other resources. In your own course, consider the level and motivation of your students, then decide which elements of the course you would track with activity completion and which would contribute to the course completion. It helps to have a list of all the resources and activities, noting whether the students must access them or if they're considered supporting information. Having listed all of your resources and decided which ones you'd like to track, you now need to enable activity completion on, you guessed it, each individual activity to be tracked. All activities have a default set of choices about how to implement activity completion. Let's start in the Welcome forum and check these out. Head over to Settings and Activity Completion. Do not indicate activity completion as the self-explanatory default setting. This activity will not be shown in the activity completion report. Next is, students can manually mark the activity as completed. This may be useful if it's something students have to complete in the real world. I'm sure you can think of other scenarios where you could use this. Students simply tick a box to indicate that they have finished the item. Finally, there's Show Activity as Complete when conditions are met. This is the one we're most interested in, and which varies depending on the type of activity. One of the other common settings is Require View, which only requires the student to open the activity, book, page, URL, etc. in order for completion to be recorded. This gives an indication that the student's engaged with the resource. This setting should be used with caution, as if you apply it to a quiz, the student need only open the quiz in order to complete. You can also link completion to a grade if you have applied a passing grade to your activity. The rest of the settings will be specific to the type of activity you've chosen. In the next few chapters I cover the settings I've chosen for specific activities in this course, starting with the forum. Forum activity is perhaps a bit more useful than you remember it. A forum post can now be text, images, an audio clip or video. You can also record sound and video directly in the forum post. We want to know if our students have engaged with the forum. In other words, have they posted anything? We can require students to post one or more discussions or replies, create discussions, or post replies alone. For completion tracking, I'm choosing Show Activity as Complete when conditions are met. There are a few different types of forum. This is Single Simple Discussion Forum, and I'm going to choose Student Must Post Replies and set this to 1. Although this is likely not important to completion of the course, this will give you a quick insight at the beginning of the course if any students are not accessing the material. This gives you the opportunity to intervene early if you feel students are maybe having issues accessing the online material or aren't engaging for some other reason. Remember to save your settings and return to course. If we now have a quick look at the activity completion report, you'll see that the Welcome forum has appeared and all the students are listed down the side. This is how we'll build up activity completion for the whole course. Book activity. Accessing books in Moodle is quite common. Again, a student accessing a book is unlikely to count towards completion of the course, so instead this provides another useful engagement measurement. The options are very simple for book. In this case there is only one option available, Require View, so I'll be selecting that. Quiz. Quiz results can be a key metric when tracking your students' progress in the course. It may suit you then to include completion of certain quizzes in the course completion criteria. The completion conditions for a quiz are slightly more complex, giving you more granular control over the reporting. I'm going to select Show Activity as Complete when conditions are met again. The purpose of this quiz is to test the instant factual recall of students. You should avoid the condition students must view this activity to complete it. In quizzes, this will show the student has completed the quiz when they open it before they've answered a single question. In this case, I'll select that students must receive a grade, and additionally that this must be a passing grade to complete. As you can see, there are other options which may suit your own scenario better, such as setting an expected completion date. If students do not complete the quiz by the deadline, this will not be recorded as complete in the activity completion. I've left the quiz attempts at unlimited as this is just a formative activity. Remember to set up the grade to pass in the quiz settings. In this quiz there are 5 questions. I've set the grade to pass at 3. Page. Like book, the page activity has very simple options. There's only one condition available, require view, so I'll be selecting that. This is unlikely to contribute to course completion, which we'll look at later. Choice. Choice can be a useful indicator of engagement. You can ask, how are you finding the course so far? Or use the choice activity to allow students to choose a discussion topic. This has fairly straightforward activity completion options. In this case, I'm requiring students to make a choice to register completion. URL. To record visits to a website in your activity completion, use the URL activity. You may choose to link directly to external websites in any of the text in your course. However, you should know that clicks out to these websites will not be recorded. To record whether a student has visited a URL, it's necessary to select Require View in the activity tracking conditions. It's also worth pointing out that you should be in edit mode to adjust the settings for a URL, otherwise you'll be transported to the website, not the settings screen. As you can see, I'm requiring students to view this URL in order to mark it as complete. Assignment. The assignment activity, together with Turnitin assignment, is widely used for summative assessment. This is therefore one of the key activity types to include in your course completion criteria. For activity completion, I'm setting the conditions that the student must receive a grade and that this must be a passing grade to trigger activity completion. Having added all our activity tracking criteria, we can now have a look at the activity completion report. This is an overview of the activities I set completion criteria on. Note, this report does not give any indication of course completion. As you can see, we have a list of students down the left, and spread across the page we have all activities for which we are tracking completion. Note that as the students participate in the activities, they are ticked off here as complete. This doesn't always happen instantly. Moodle does a lot of things in the background, so you may have to wait a short time to see a tick, even if you know a student has completed the activity. The red cross here indicates that student 4 has failed the activity Understanding the Industry quiz, although it does have unlimited attempts, so they can have another go and change this red cross to a green tick. To pull all of this together, we can now specify our course completion criteria. In other words, which of the activities we are tracking will contribute to the completion of the overall course. Remember, course in this context is the current Moodle course. This may relate to a unit, a project, or it may be a Moodle course where we link out to many other courses. As we discussed earlier, we should choose some key milestones when setting course completion criteria. To access the course completion settings, go to the More tab and then select Course Completion. In the General area, choose Course is complete when all conditions are met. Then, in the Activity Completion area, we should choose the milestone activities which contribute to course completion. With that in mind, I will choose the Initial Forum, have the students join the course, the Understanding the Industry quiz, the Destination Management Strategy choice activity, the Creating a Sustainable Tourism slide activity, and the Final Assessment as the criteria to indicate completion of this course. Remember, as always, to save your changes. Now we can view the course completion report to see the progress of our students in that context. There are fewer items, remember, since these are the milestones we picked earlier rather than all of the activities in the course. When a student completes the course, all of the listed activities plus the final course completion column will show ticks. Student 1 has completed the course, with students 4 and 3 participating. It seems that students 5 and 2 have not contributed yet, which may be an indication that they require assistance. Completion of other courses. If you have a series of online courses set up with activity completion and course completion, you can include completion of other courses in your course completion criteria. This can be useful if, for instance, you have a short IT course you would like your students to complete as part of another course. You can include course completion of the IT course as one of the criteria for completion of the current course. This is a more complex topic which is a little beyond the scope of this video. It's already quite long enough.